Brought to you by Penguin.
Strange Sally Diamond by Liz Nugent. Read by Jessica Regan, Stephen Hogan and Sara Lynam. Part 1. Chapter 1. "Put me out with the bins," he said regularly. "When I die, put me out with the bins. I'll be dead, so I won't know any different. You'll be crying your eyes out." And he would laugh, and I'd laugh too, because we both knew that I wouldn't be crying my eyes out. I never cry. When the time came, on Wednesday, 29th November, 2017, I followed his instructions. He was small and frail and 82 years old by then, so it was easy to get him into one large garden waste bag. It was a month since he'd been up and about. "No doctors," he said. "I know what they're like." And he did, because he was a doctor of psychiatry. He was still able to write prescriptions, though, and would send me to Roscommon to get those filled out. I didn't kill him. It wasn't like that. I brought him in tea that morning and he was cold in his bed. Eyes closed, thank God. I hate it on those TV dramas when corpses stare up at the detective inspector. Maybe you only have your eyes open if you've been murdered. "Dad," I said, though I knew he was gone. I sat on the end of the bed, took the lid off his beaker and drank the tea, missing the sugar I put in mine. I checked his pulse first, but I could tell by the waxiness of his skin. Only, waxy isn't the right word. It was more like his skin didn't belong to him anymore, or he didn't belong to it. Dragging the waste bag across the yard to the barn was hard. The ground was frosted, so I had to heave the bag up onto my shoulder every few minutes so that it wouldn't drip. Once a month, when he was well, Dad would empty the bins into the incinerator. He refused to pay the bin charges, and we lived in such a secluded spot that the council didn't chase us about it. I knew that corpses decomposed and began to rot and smell, so I carefully placed the bag into the incinerator barrel. I splashed some petrol over the top and set it going. I didn't stay to hear it burn. He was no longer he. It was a body, an it, in a domestic incinerator beside a barn in a field beside a house at the end of a lane off a minor road. Sometimes, when describing where we lived over the phone, Dad would say, "I'm off the middle of nowhere. If you go to the middle of nowhere and then take a left, a right, another left until you come to a roundabout, take the second exit." He didn't like visitors. Apart from our doctor, Angela, we had callers maybe once every 2 years since Mum died. The last few fixed the car or installed a computer, and then a few years later another man came and gave Dad the internet and a newer computer. And the last one came to improve our broadband. I stayed in my room on those occasions. He never offered to teach me how to use the computer, but explained all the things it could do. I watched enough television to know what computers could do. They could bomb countries, they could spy on people, they could do brain surgery, they could reunite old friends and enemies and solve crimes. But I didn't want to do any of those things. Television was what I liked, documentaries, nature and history programmes, and I loved dramas, fantasy ones set in the future or Victoria ones set in great houses and beautiful dresses, and even the modern ones. I liked watching people with their exciting lives, their passionate love affairs, their unhappy families, and their dark secrets. It's ironic, I suppose, because I didn't like people in real life. Most people. I preferred to stay at home. Dad understood that. School had been horrendous. I went to all the classes, tried to avoid other girls, and went straight home afterwards. They said I was autistic, even though my psychiatrist dad had told me I definitely wasn't. I joined no clubs or societies, despite Mum's pleading. When I did my final exams, I got 2 A's and 2 B's and 2 C's in honour subjects and a pass in maths and Irish. That was 25 years ago, after which we moved again to a bungalow at the end of a tiny lane, a mile outside the village of Carricksheedy. Weekly shopping trips were always an ordeal. I sometimes...
Sample complete. Ready to continue?